Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 3 of Tirreno Adriatico 2022. 171 kilometers, about 107 miles in length, and not a whole lot of obstacles on today's course. It should be a sprint with all these sprinters in this race, knowing that they're going to run out of sprint stages and we're going to start getting into the mountain stages on tomorrow's stage. Now, when the race begins, there's 5 riders up the road. Represented in the group is Taco van der Hoorn from Intermarché. Along with him, Luca Rastelli from Bardiani. Matteo Baez and his brother, yesterday's man that was in the break, Davide Baez, was in this break here, making it 6 early, but he grabbed the KOM points and then dropped out of the break after that and went back to the field to rest up for his legs, I'm sure, for the coming stages of tomorrow and the next day. Other riders represented in that break, Edoardo Zardini from Drone Harper, along with his teammate that I already mentioned, and Mirko Mastri from Iolo Cometa. Those are the 5 guys up in the front, and they had 6 to begin with. But as I told you, with Davide Baez dropping out of the group, that leaves only 5, and the time gap is already down to 1 minute and 30 seconds when the race comes on. Now behind, the team's chasing. We're talking about Albacete, Phoenix, Bike Exchange I saw on the front. And as this time gap's coming down, it's looking a little bit ridiculous because they're down to 1 minute at one point in time and pulling out the cars with 60 kilometers to go. You know when you start seeing the cars advance past the breakaway that gap has shrunk to less than 1 minute, and that means the group behind is chasing too fast and they need to set up. Not certain what the sprinter teams were thinking back there, but they're going to get a surprise. Now, when the day first started off, Peter Sagan wasn't here as he was sick last night, and earlier in the stage we see Caleb Ewan having all kinds of bike problems. They said he'd crashed at one point in time, but I never saw it on TV, so it must have happened before or the cameras just missed it. Either way, multiple times we'll see him on the side of the road adjusting his bike with teammates to get him back onto the front group. Now with 60 kilometers to go and the break under 1 minute, the field at this point in time, they need to understand how to read bike races, and they're not. They're still staying on the pedals. It wasn't incredibly fast, but you can tell at the speed there, they're doing 40, 45K an hour back there, and the brake's just tired of it, so they're going to ease up. The field catches the break with 50 kilometers to go, and guess what? You know it. It's UAE Team Emirates on the front. I told you this is going to be a race over time bonuses. And at the beginning of this stage, when they interviewed Remco Evenepoel, he said he didn't care about the time bonuses and didn't care about Remco Evenepoel stealing only 1 second yesterday on the stage. And I'm here to say this is a mistake, Remco Evenepoel. Now, I remember racing the Tour de France when Bradley Wiggins won. He'd been dominating throughout the whole season up to the Tour de France, but I'd been at other races, so I hadn't personally seen his domination and his power and force. And when we got to that Tour de France, yeah, okay, I seen what he can do on television, but I hadn't witnessed what he can do. So when I'm sitting on the couch listening to Remco Evenepoel's explanation here of not worrying about 1 second, I'm thinking about to that year when Wiggins won the Tour de France, and I thought, nah, he's not going to win the Tour de France. This is Cadel Evans will drop him somewhere. I don't care if he won the 1 week races before the Tour and multiple races all the way up to the Tour de France. There's no way they're winning the Tour de France. When we got into the first big mountain stages, we went over this monster 30-kilometer climbs, one of the Col de Colombières. There's a ton of them, and I can't remember which one it was, but it's the first mountain stage of that Tour de France. We go over that, and it blew up coming into the finish. And at one point in time, Bradley Wiggins had to close this gap, and I was on his wheel. When he accelerated, it was unlike anything I had experienced in a long, long time of pain and suffering in my legs to close that gap and hold, just to close it and hold the wheel of Bradley Wiggins as he closed up on all of the tacks and we crossed the line all together. That was my first experience with Bradley Wiggins. Up to that point in time, I never thought much of Bradley Wiggins. He was a time trial specialist and he got dropped in all the Tour de France stages, and now all of a sudden my legs hadn't felt that much pain in a long time. So when Remco Evenepoel's talking about not caring about what Tadej Pogačar is doing and gaining time on him, that's all I can think of. Now with 50 kilometers to go, after the breakaway gets brought back, now you're going to see some excitement because UAE Team Emirates get on the front, because with 27 kilometers to go, guess what? There's time bonuses available for the peloton now that the break is all wrapped up. So all those sprinter teams made a big mistake. UAE Team Emirates start driving in on the front. With 28.5 kilometers to go, we start seeing the full lead-out train up the slight drag all the way to the time bonus sprint, and it's Tadej Pogačar that wins the sprint. Julian Alaphilippe from Quick-Step, he tried to do something but had nothing left because Marc Soler did an amazing lead out that split the three riders off. Tadej Pogačar took the bonus. Now he's only 3 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel. Evenepoel better be getting a little bit worried now with such a slim advantage, because remember, with only 3 seconds separation, I told you yesterday he only needed to get second to tie. Now second will put Tadej Pogačar in the lead at this year's Tirreno Adriatico when we get into tomorrow's and all these bigger mountain stages coming. Now, behind, what blows my mind away is that there's 2 chasers following, of course, Theo Gegenhardt and Mikel Landa. But up front, Tadej Pogačar decides to throw down and get hard on the pedals. He's trying to actually win the stage and gain more time. Now, Julian Alaphilippe's there, and as I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching Marc Soler holding on for dear life, I see Julian Alaphilippe take a pull. I couldn't believe it. Now, there's a couple scenarios here where I could somewhat understand it, but I would still never do it. Like I've said before when I'm talking here on the butterfly effect, there's been many times when I have worked in a group for a little bit just to let those guys stay out there because it was an advantage to our team for me to work, but I had no plans on going to the line. That's what I thought was a possibility with Julian Alaphilippe, right? He can get in there, he can work in this group, he can tire the legs of Tadej Pogačar out, and then maybe Remco Evenepoel will have a little bit less tired legs with Tadej Pogačar to deal with in tomorrow's first mountain stage and a kind of a summit stage finish there with a hard climb to the finish line. But remember, now we're going to flip the script here, because Julian Alaphilippe is really the best, strongest guy on Quick-Step to help Remco Evenepoel when we get in these mountain stages, so his legs are getting tired too, right? Keep that in mind. So when you're hearing the announcers and they're saying, well, maybe this is a great ploy for Tadej Pogačar to get his legs tired and Alaphilippe will just work up there and then wear him out, we know Tadej Pogačar can do back-to-back stages, right? There's a reason why he's a 2-time Tour de France champion and winner of massive one-day races along the way. So when you start thinking, well, okay, we'll tire his legs out, that's a great ploy if you have somebody else up there from Quick-Step that isn't Julian Alaphilippe, because Alaphilippe's going to be the right-hand man to Remco Evenepoel later. So, that to my surprise, Julian's pulling. Now, Soler's holding on to the back for dear life. Julian's getting a little bit upset, but Soler finally recovers, comes through and starts taking pull. The next big surprise in this break is when it becomes 4, because Mikel Landa gets dropped from Theo Gegenhardt, who bridges across up to the 3 leaders, and now Theo Gegenhardt's taking a pull. This makes no sense to me at all, because Theo Gegenhardt is one of 3 Ineos riders that have a shot here at the GC at Tirreno Adriatico. Okay, it's a small shot in the dark, eyes closed on the dartboard, hoping you hit the bullseye, but it does exist. When you're talking Richard Carapaz, Richie Porte, Theo Gegenhardt, it is a possibility that they can win the general classification. So Theo Gegenhardt going up the road right now and working even with Tadej Pogačar, this is a big mistake. There is no way you want Tadej Pogačar wearing yellow at the end of this stage. And let me remind you, Theo Gegenhardt has Filippo Ganna in the race leader's jersey here at this stage at this exact moment. So it makes no sense to go to the line. You're not going to beat Julian Alaphilippe if it comes to the sprint, Theo Gegenhardt, and you're definitely not going to beat Tadej Pogačar if we get to the line. line either. Now, I could see some of the math there with Teo Gegenhardt. He's thinking, I'm going to move up on GC, and I for sure can beat Tadej Pogačar in the sprint if he's got to pull 100% to the line. That's a possibility. But then you want to throw in that you can beat Julian Alaphilippe, because at some point in time, Alaphilippe is absolutely going to sit on this group for sure. Now, those guys work all the way from 27 kilometers till 13 kilometers to go when the field finally catches them. It was a mass push back there from all the big teams, FDJ, Jumbo-Visma, Alpecin, Phoenix, and of course, Lotto Soudal back there. All those teams chasing full gas. They didn't have a whole lot of hope, but I understand when you see Julian Alaphilippe and Tadej Pogačar up there pushing on the pedals, we're getting all excited, right? But the big guys are going to come to the front on the descent, and they're going to come to the front on the flat stages, and you're going to have 4 big teams pushing back there. Now, like I said, it's all together with 13 kilometers to go. With 6 kilometers, we see a drag race on the right side and the left side of the road as the teams are fighting for dominance here coming down to the finish of this sprint on stage 3 of Tirreno Adriatico. With 4.5 kilometers, it's Filippo Ganna, the world time trial champion and race leader at this stage at Tirreno Adriatico, on the front. He will pull for 1.5 kilometers on the front and just devastating the guys behind until Jumbo-Visma come to the front with 3 kilometers to go. They'll hold off till it's none other than world road champion Julian Alaphilippe from Quick-Step on the front. Now, this is a mistake. It's 1.8 kilometers to go, and he's on the front. Remember, he was in that break back there pulling with Tadej Pogačar, and now his legs aren't going to be feeling that great for sure after that effort from 27 kilometers till 13 kilometers to go. Now he's on the front. Here's the next problem, Julian Alaphilippe. You're taking the front because I'm sure you want to showboat. But remember, you got Casper Asgreen, Davide Ballerini on your wheel. That's only 3 guys total. It's 1.8 kilometers to go, and your legs are already tired. So just as I expected, less than 400 meters later, Julian Alaphilippe blows up, and it's Casper Asgreen on the front. Casper Asgreen's a legend, but 1.4 kilometers is a long time to pull. He'll stay up there under the 1K banner and get to about 600-700 meters to go until it's FDJ on the front with Arnaud Démare sitting second wheel. FDJ does a fantastic job of getting all the way to the left corner, and then Arnaud Démare starts his acceleration on his wheel. Pascal Ackermann is there. Caleb Ewan from Lotto Soudal is on form, even with all the stops and possible accidents that he had earlier in today's stage. He is in fine position. Now, my young kid, 20 years old, Jumbo-Visma, Olaf Koy is there, fourth wheel on Caleb Ewan's wheel. When the sprint starts coming out of the left bin with about 280 meters to go, Arnaud Démare that starts the acceleration, and Pascal Ackermann cannot hold the wheel because Arnaud Démare is on fine form on today's stage 3. Caleb Ewan does a great job of flying past on the right side of Pascal Ackermann, and the gap had opened up so big to Arnaud Démare now that Ewan could slot back in behind as Olaf Koy comes from the left side. He's starting his own sprint, but Caleb Ewan is coming back with vengeance as he passes Arnaud Démare on the right side of the road and accelerates all the way to the line for a fantastic victory here on stage 3 of Tirreno Adriatico. Just behind him on his wheel will be Arnaud Démare, the young 20-year-old Jumbo-Visma kid. Olaf Koy finishes third for another great result here at Tirreno Adriatico. Now, Caleb Ewan, in his interview, he's talking about Milan-San Remo just around the corner. Everybody better be weary of the young Australian, because if you remember last year, he was a climbing ace in Milan-San Remo, and clearly his form is coming back again for the big first one-day monument coming next weekend. Now, behind, when we're talking Filippo Ganna, he is still race leader here at Tirreno Adriatico, but Tadej Pogačar has moved up that much closer to Remco Evenepoel, who's sitting second on the general classification, and these are the two big favorites. With Remco Evenepoel's only 3-second advantage now, all Tadej Pogačar needs is a second place on one of these mountain stages, and he'll pull into the lead here at Tirreno Adriatico. This was a fantastic stage. It was a sleeper to begin with, should have been a sleeper all the way to the finish, but the sprint teams did the big no-no in today's stage of keeping the break way too close, and then UAE Team Emirates lit everything up for us fans on the couch. Hope you guys enjoyed today's take on the butterfly effect. Tomorrow's going to get crazy exciting as we see the big showdown between Remco Evenepoel and Tadej Pogačar. And Remco Evenepoel, possibly like I did with Bradley Wiggins when he won his Tour de France, is going to get to see firsthand what Tadej Pogačar can do on these mountain stages and just exactly how aggressive his acceleration is going to be. It's going to be an exciting stage to find out which one of these two guns can come away with the win here at Tirreno Adriatico. We got a few more stages left, so like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.